Hey YouTube, it's Chris with FixingMyCreditReport.com. This is a video describing my process in which I went through and removed derogatory information, late pays, collections, everything from my credit report. This is not the typical disputed as not yours or anything like that that a lot of credit repair agencies out there use. I myself am not part of a company that sells credit repair or anything like that. I've actually gone through this process myself. I've developed this process myself using countless hours of research and information that I found, and was apparently able to put together a credit repair package that should work for you just as it has worked for me. Now, this video is going to be a little longer than what I originally anticipated, but I want to give you as much information as possible. So with that said, to prove that I'm not from any company just trying to be out there making a buck, I'm a real person. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm 38, married with 2 kids, and I work a 9-to-5 job. So this is not by any means my full-time position or anything like that. I am a .NET software developer. I do build websites for a living. So the website that you see is actually something that I created, not necessarily something that I bought off the shelf and just branded with my information. For those of you who are on the technical side, I purchased an HTML template, went through and gutted it, inserted all my content, and created the contact form and everything. So this is, my blood, sweat, and tears in putting this information together. So I hope that that kind of gives me a little credibility as far as the process that I'm about to describe. So to give you a little background information, the Fair Credit Reporting Act was originally enacted back in October of 1970. The FCRA governs how consumer reporting agencies are allowed to collect, analyze, and use your consumer data in regards to creditworthiness and credit history. In 2003, an amendment was made to the FCRA called the Fair and Accurate Credit Transactions Act. This amendment actually gave additional rights to consumers to obtain, review, and dispute items on their credit report that they believed may be inaccurate. It made it possible for consumers to request a copy of all of the information in their file, including information used to verify accounts that accounts contained complete and accurate data. If a consumer found that any item was not being reported correctly, it provides the steps necessary to file a dispute with the CRA and have the information verified. The key is, if the information can't be verified or it's found to be inaccurate, then the CRA is required by federal law to update the information or remove it completely from the consumer's file. Now, here's the problem. The current method that the consumer reporting agencies use to verify the account is completely automated and all done electronically using a system called eOscar. This system is just riddled with errors, and it does not accurately provide the necessary proof that an item on your credit file is indeed being reported accurately. Additionally, the CRAs do not have access to, nor do they require, any form of physical documentation from the original lender that proves that you entered into a legally binding contract to pay back the debt. Simply put, they don't have the necessary information to verify that that account is indeed yours. Furthermore, as an example, the CRAs do not have a copy of any credit card receipt that you signed when making any particular purchase. They don't have a copy of an original contract with your signature on it showing that you legally entered into that contract. They have nothing. However, they still report the account as derogatory, paid late, etc., without having the necessary proof required by the FCRA. The truth of the matter is that it would cost CRAs an enormous amount of money to acquire store, and process the physical documentation of every single loan, credit card, line of credit, or whatever other form of credit a lender would extend to a consumer. Some loans have upwards of 10 to 20 pages on a single loan. So imagine how much hard drive space would be needed in order to store all of that information in their computer systems. It simply is not economically sound for them to go through and store all of this information. That right there is where the problem is, and where the method that I'm using and including in my credit repair package that is designed to expose. Other credit repair companies have you dispute an item as, quote, not mine. And this method is proven to not be effective, and more importantly, is actually illegal if the account is indeed one that you're liable for. By disputing an account this way, you run the risk of having perjury charges filed against you. The credit repair company is not going to be there when you're standing in front of the judge answering to perjury charges. So, what do? Well, you can either go to Lexington Law and Veracity Credit or any other credit repair agency out there and pay them upwards of $50, $75, maybe even $100 a month to, quote, fix your credit. It doesn't work. Been there, done that. I've spent hundreds of dollars in fees in trying to get my credit back to where it needs to be, and none of it worked until I was able to put together this method. What I'm disputing, and what you're going to be disputing in using my method, is the credit bureau's right to even report the information. The fact is, the credit agencies do not have the right to report anything on your credit file because they do not have the necessary physical, verifiable proof that the account is yours. This includes both positive and, more importantly, negative account information. As a result, according to the FCRA, they have to immediately either update it if it's a late pay, or they have to remove it if it's a derogatory account. And not only do they have to do that, but they also have to prevent the account from reappearing on your credit file once it's been removed. Now, how do we get it removed? Well, in my credit repair package, I have a number of letters that force the credit agencies or the credit bureaus to provide to you the verifiable proof that that account should be reported on your credit report. The problem is they don't have that. They don't have that proof. They don't have a single sales slip. They don't have a single contract. They have nothing. So how in the world can they possibly verify that you are liable for that debt, whether it's a positive reporting account or a negative reporting account? Simply put, they can't. This process works for any type of account. It doesn't matter if it's a late pay on a good account, a collection account, charge-off, judgments, bankruptcies, foreclosures, any type of credit item on your report. Doesn't matter what kind it is. I have proof of it because I actually had a judgment on my credit file that I was successfully able to remove using this credit repair package. With this package, like I said, you'll be able to remove any type of negative account from your credit file. We don't want to move the positive ones. We just want to focus on the negative ones. The reason being is because, again, the CRAs simply do not have the proof, and therefore they are not allowed by federal law to report that item to anybody who does a credit check on you. By now, you should understand, again, that the CRAs do not have this documentation. Therefore, they are required by federal law to remove any item that they cannot prove, period. So what happens when a consumer disputes something? Well, in my credit repair package, I have congressional testimonial, stating the entire method of verification used by the credit bureaus. In short, when the CRA receives a dispute, they send it to an offshore processing office that reads your dispute letter. These workers are paid minimum wage, I mean barely pennies a day, to go through and process these disputes. Since they are paid so little, they are required to go through and still maintain a specific quota of disputes that are processed throughout the day. Your letter only gets about maybe 3 or 4 minutes of attention before they stamp it with a 2-digit code. And that 2-digit code is then transmitted back to the CRA, goes through their verification process or their review process, and is then reduced down to a 1-digit code. The ending code determines what they do with that account, whether they say, oh yeah, we verified it, or we removed it, or we updated it, or whatever the outcome may be. So it goes from a 2-digit code down to a 1-digit code. And then you get a response letter in the mail. From this process, it doesn't matter how many supporting documents you send or how much proof you have to prove that the account isn't yours. It simply never gets read or reviewed by anyone. So if you send 5 documents in proving, hey, this account is not mine, those documents never even get read because of the time constraints that these offshore processing offices are put under in order to process all of these different disputes. So how on earth can a CRA verify any of the accounts on a consumer's credit file if they don't even read any proof or documentation that is sent, or perform a proper investigation on the validity of an account? Simple answer, they can't. So as a result, they are not permitted by law to include any unverifiable information in your credit file, meaning they are required to delete that information, including any negative information that is preventing you from obtaining credit. They simply have to remove it. Now, throughout this process, be prepared for a fight. CRAs make billions of dollars per year from selling consumer credit information. They don't like it when consumers force them to update the information because of how they're reporting it. It costs them thousands of dollars per credit file when they have to remove something. As a result, they're prepared with a team of lawyers and enough form letters to make your head spin. But as long as you remain persistent, you will win in the end, and there's nothing that they can do about it because they know that according to federal law, they are not reporting or using your credit as they are required. So, how do we do this? Well, the first thing you need to know is there is no free way to go through and fix your credit. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you. You can write all the letters that you want, send them in. It costs something. The main cost is when you go through and send your letters, you have to send them certified return receipt mail. Reason being is because according to the FCRA, each credit bureau has 30 days to perform an investigation and report back to you. If they do not report back to you within those 30 days, the account that you disputed immediately has to be removed. This is federal law, and the credit bureaus know this, which is why they force their offshore processing offices to go through as many and as quickly as they possibly can, because they know that if they put up enough of a fight, that you're just going to end up getting frustrated in the end and let it go. My advice, don't let it go. Be persistent. Keep sending the letters. Keep disputing it. Eventually, you're going to end up like I am with a clean credit report and scores in the mid to high 600s. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can get a 700 score in 30 days. It simply won't happen. Doesn't matter what you try, it simply won't happen. The only way that could happen is if you have an account that's 35 years old, you've never made a late payment on it, but you had a couple others that maybe had some late pays or charge-offs or something, and those items are removed, then it'll go through and possibly get you up around the 700 mark. On my website, if you look right over here on the left-hand side, you see how your credit score is calculated. This part, this link right here is definitely worth reading because it goes into detail as far as how your credit score is calculated and what percentage of specific events impact your score the most. Definitely something to read. So before you send any of the letters in my package, there are certain steps that you have to follow in order for preparation in sending the first letter. These steps are critical to the success of your journey and are the exact steps that I followed when I began my process. I will provide alternative methods for you to choose. However, there are certain things that cannot be left out, and in my instructions, I highlight those steps. Very important that you definitely follow and do everything that I've outlined in here in order to have the most success. The steps are basically this. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to request or obtain a copy of your 3 credit files. Now, you can do this the free way, or you can pay to actually get the credit reports that you need. You're entitled by law to a free copy of your credit report from all 3 bureaus once every 12 months. If you've already done this, but it's been more than 90 days, then you need to purchase a fresh copy of your report so that you have the most updated information. You can do this by contacting the credit bureaus themselves or by using one of the many services that are found online. My personal preference is a website called Identity Guard, and it's the cheapest that I found, where you can purchase a 3-in-1 report, which is what you need. You need all 3 credit reports so that you can see what's on there and begin the process. The next thing you do is create a folder on your computer to save your letters, your responses, etc. Not only do you need to do a letter or a folder on your computer, but you should also create a physical file of one for each credit bureau so that you can keep documentation. You have to do this. You have to keep documentation, because if you ever need to actually file a lawsuit, which is later on in the process, when you've exhausted all other options, you may need to file a suit against the credit bureaus. It is absolutely 100% critical that you keep a paper trail of everything that you did. A copy of all the letters you sent, a copy of the green cards that come back in the mail from the certified return receipts, everything. You need to keep everything organized. So my suggestion is get 3 folders, 1 for each credit bureau, and as you go through this process, make sure that you store that documentation and keep it handy. The 4th step is to make copies of your driver's license, your social security card, whatever information, identifying information you have, whether it's a state ID card, a military ID card, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it can be used to prove your identity. You have to send a copy of your identifying information with every single letter. If not, the credit bureau will kick it back to you, and you'll be wasting the $6 and some odd cents that it costs to send the certified letter, and you'll be wasting time. So make sure that you have copies available of your ID so that you can send it in with each of your letters. The next step is to prepare the letters to send to the CRAs. This is where my credit package comes in, and where I outline step by step. I give you copies of the letters with highlighted parts that you need to fill in your information, your account information. All of that is included in these letters. I've taken care of all the hard work for you. All you need to do is follow the instructions. Once you have the letters prepared, then you send them off to the credit bureaus. Very, very important. Do not send the first letter to all 3 bureaus on the same day. In my research, I found 3 different people who have spoken with representatives who have previously worked for the credit bureaus. They didn't say why not to do this, but the only thing that I can gather from it is somehow all 3 credit bureaus are tied in together, and if they all receive a letter on the same day, then it throws up a red flag, and you're butting your head up against a brick wall from day one. So what I did is I sent the first letter. I waited for about 4 days and sent the second letter to the second bureau. I waited another 4 days and sent the third letter to the next bureau. That seemed to work for me. I don't know, what the black magic is behind it, but that's how I did my process, and that's how I was able to get a lot of stuff removed from my credit file. My one credit file, my Experian credit file, is actually almost completely clear because of this process that I did. And on my next step page, which is this tab right here, on the next step, I have a link right here to a copy of my credit report from Equifax showing all of the items that were deleted or updated, every single one of them. This just happened on March 27, 2013, so you can see that this has been very old. And this is the actual letter that I received from Equifax. So, definitely an important point. The next thing is we sit back and wait. The credit reporting agencies have, by law, 30 days to go through and do their investigation and to respond with the results. Those 30 days are critical. You have to wait those 30 days, because if not, then they receive an extension of no more than 15 days. Okay? So best thing to do, if you send a letter out on, let's say, January 1st, and they receive it on January 3rd, the best thing to do is actually open up a link that I have, which is days from date. So if I click on days from date and I type in January, they received it on January 3rd of 2012, or I'm sorry, 2013, and I add 30 days, they have until Saturday, February 2nd, 2013 to respond back to me. Now what I did is I actually gave them a little extra time in order to get that letter back to me, because if they send it out on February 1st, I may not get it until, maybe the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th or something like that. So I actually waited about 35, almost 40 days before I sent off the next letter saying, hey guys, you didn't get back to me within those 30 days, so now you have to delete this information according to the FCRA. I'll get into that a little bit later, but that actually happened, and that is how I was able to get a lot of the accounts completely removed from my credit file, simply because the 30-day period had expired. So you have to wait those 30 days. The other way that they get the extension is if you initially get your credit report from annualcreditreport.com, which is your free, federally mandated copy of your credit report once every 12 months. Then they also get the additional 45 days. So just keep that in mind when you send out the first set of letters, that if you get your annual credit report, they have 45 days, but if you buy your credit report, then they only have the 30 days. The next step in the process, make sure you send all correspondence certified mail. Okay, I said that earlier, and I explain the forms that you need to use and how you fill them out. Okay, the next part is very important. When you send them, you must handwrite the address and your return address on the envelope. Don't use a printer to do this, or you run the chance of having your letter processed more quickly, which could give them the time that they need in order to make sure that they get it back to you within 30 days. If you handwrite it, then they know that an individual has sent this and not some credit reporting company that's just trying to blow smoke. Make sure that you handwrite the address on the outside of the envelope. After that, sign up for a service to monitor your credit file. Now, again, I use Identity Guard, but I also have accounts set up with the individual credit bureaus so that I can monitor my credit. I want to know when something comes off. I want to know when there's a change to my credit file. So I actually pay a little bit more money. It costs me right around about $50 a month to subscribe to all of the credit monitoring services that I use so that I can keep an eye on my credit. This isn't a necessity, but it does help in the process so that you can make sure that the credit bureaus are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and so that you can kind of keep an eye on it when something should be removed or updated. The next step is, during the waiting process, we wait for, carefully read the response letters that the CRA sends you. I will say it again, you must wait the entire 30 days before sending any additional letters. If not, you will jeopardize your chances of succeeding in this process. Remember, this date is the stamped date on your green card and not the date that you mailed the letter. It's the date that the credit bureaus received your letter. So about 2 to 3 weeks after you send your first letter, you'll start getting responses from the CRAs. For the most part, these are simple form letters that each of the CRAs send out to every dispute letter they receive. Sometimes it's a confirmation letter, sometimes it is an actual response letter to the investigation, depending on how many accounts you've disputed. That's another thing. Don't dispute any more than 22 accounts. If you have 22 accounts that you need to dispute, do not dispute all of them at the same time. The best thing to do, right around 10, maybe 15 accounts, if you have that many, okay? Make sure it's less than 22 accounts. The key to the deletion of account is the age of that particular account. The older the account is, the more likely it is to be removed with the first round of letters. By law, the CRAs can only report an item for 7 years from the date of first delinquency. That means from the date that you first went delinquent on the account starts the 7-year process. After that, it has to drop off your credit report. Now, the only exception to this is with judgments and bankruptcies. Most judgments and bankruptcies will stay on for 10 years as opposed to 7 years. So make sure that you know the time frames, the 30 days, the 45 days, the 7 years, the 10 years. Make sure that you know that stuff before going through this process. So, according to the FCRA, the CRAs must contact the original creditor and tell them that the account is being disputed. So, part of the verification process that is supposed to occur is that the original creditor sends back the proof that the account is yours and that it's being reported correctly. However, the proof that they have to send, or that they send back, is all done electronically and never by producing the original signed contract or any kind of receipt showing that you signed for or agreed to pay on that account. This is what the CRAs don't want you to know, and ultimately how you will win your dispute. So, eventually, you'll end up receiving letters back that they verified or refused to reinvestigate your account. This is a stall tactic. The CRAs love to use it, and according to the FCRA, they are within their rights to do so. Unfortunately, at this point, they flagged your account, and any letters that you send back to them will most likely be received with the same response. However, there are 2 ways to fight this, and I explain those in the instructions in my credit report, my credit repair package. So now, after the process, you have a clean credit file. Now what? Well, first and foremost, congratulations. You did a good job. You're on your way to financial freedom. The next thing is, don't screw it up. You don't want to have to go through the process all over again. Now, to take advantage of the new credit file, you simply need to apply for some new credit accounts. But don't go crazy and start applying everywhere you see a deal. Remember, according to how your credit score is calculated, 10% of your credit score is based on new accounts or inquiries. So the more you have in a short period of time, the more you're actually hurting your score. The first thing you need to do is see what your FICO score is. This is the Fair Isaac credit score. This is not the score that's reported on your monthly credit monitoring, sometimes called a FACO or FAKO, but rather the score that most lenders themselves use when determining if they are going to extend you credit. You can get this score by visiting myfico.com, although you'll only be able to get your Equifax and TransUnion FICO score at this time. Experian is a different story, but you can search online to see how you can obtain the FICO score for them. The best thing to do is to start off with opening an account at a credit union. Now, depending on which credit file looks the best, you may want to be sure to only deal with a credit union that looks at a particular credit bureau file. At the time of this video and at the time of the instructions in my credit package, Digital Federal Credit Union only uses Equifax. Alliant only uses Equifax. PenFed only uses Equifax. So if your Equifax report looks the best, that's the one. Those are the ones that you're going to want to start up an account at. The next thing to do, go to Target and apply for a Target Red Card. It has a $200 to $300 limit, and it'll give you possibly give you a credit increase within a few months of good payment history. Another good one is Fingerhut. And remember, you're not doing this to necessarily go out and just buy a bunch of goods, because we all know that Fingerhut charges astronomical prices and huge shipping charges. The main thing for this is to get good positive reporting credit on, or credit accounts on your credit file, so that you can start building up a credit history, building up a good credit history, and increasing your scores. There are a couple different websites, and I mentioned one of them in my instructions, as far as determining which lenders use specific credit bureau scores or credit files to look at your report. So that's definitely something that you'll want to look at there under the last part of my instructions, to look at the credit pools database to see where other people have been approved and what scores they had when they received the approval. You can search by state, you can search by credit reporting agency, you can even search by score, and it'll give you the best success as far as getting getting approved for a loan. So, in the end, as a disclaimer, I will say that these are the exact steps that I follow to repair my credit files, but your results may vary depending on the individual circumstances involved in your credit files, the accounts that you have, etc. I can only state what has been my experience, and I honestly hope that your experience is the same or even better than mine. While I have done my best to describe in detail the exact steps that you should follow, please understand that every situation is different and that you may or may not experience the same satisfaction. However, if you follow the instructions that I have written up, I am confident that you will see similar results. Now, as far as the cost, I believe I said earlier in the video, I charge $20 for my package. No hidden fees, no monthly fees, no nothing like that. It's simple $20, and you get my entire package with all the instructions and any updates that I put out at a later time. So I hope you like this video. I hope you like my website. I put a lot of time and effort into it, and into perfecting the letters that I have made available. All of the information on my website, and I hope that you find the information useful and beneficial in your credit repair process. Again, my name is Chris from FixingMyCreditReport.com. Have a good day.